even though some states in our Blessed Union didn't want this to happen, today is the recognized federal holiday observing the birth of a very great being, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is a person about whom the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh said that the moment he met him, he knew he was in the presence of a holy man. And you may not know this, but the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh and the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were actually dear friends. And Martin Luther King actually nominated Thich Nhat Hanh to the Nobel Prize, Peace Prize Committee to try to get him in the running for it. But I'm not shocked that he didn't make it, considering the makeup of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. But anyway, and you probably are familiar with a saying of, Dr. King was a complicated person. He had a lot of views that I agree profoundly with that maybe are not the official views of anyone else but myself, including that capitalism maybe isn't the best reflection of Jesus Christ's message on earth, and that maybe people should be fed and housed more so than Jeff Bezos needs another super yacht. But you may also know that the Reverend Doctor said a beautiful thing that is somehow a perfect mirror of a teaching of the Buddha, that hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. This seems to be a direct mirror of the Buddha's teaching in the Dhammapada, that hatred cannot drive out hatred, only, and this is an interesting quirk of the Pali language, instead of using the word love, the word is that which is not hatred. So, but same sentiment, only metta, only compassion and kindness can drive out hatred. You cannot fight your way to peace that way, it doesn't work. You cannot hate yourself into becoming a better person, it doesn't work that way. But I was surprised today because I was looking up some quotes from Martin Luther King to share, and I found what was his last Christmas sermon to his congregation at Ebenezer Baptist Church, because 4 months later he was murdered. And I want to share a couple excerpts, and if you are familiar with either the Buddha's teaching on dependent co-arising, or as the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh puts it, interbeing. Basically the idea that everything is made of everything else. And I don't know if it gets you this way, but it's so profoundly meaningful to me that you can take anything in our world and immediately you have the whole cosmos in your hand. The Reverend Doctor does a very good job of it, so I'll let him do it. It begins like this. This Christmas season finds us a rather bewildered human race. We have neither peace within nor peace without. Everywhere fears harrow people by day and haunt them by night. Our world is sick with war, everywhere we turn. And yet, my friends, the Christmas hope for peace and goodwill can no longer be dismissed as a kind of pious dream of some utopian. If we don't have goodwill, we will destroy ourselves by the misuse of our own instruments and our own power. Let me suggest that if we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Our loyalties must transcend race, tribe, and class. We must develop a global perspective. No individual can live alone, and as long as we try, the more we are going to have war in this world. As nations and as individuals, We are unalterably interdependent. It all boils down to this. All life is interrelated. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. We are tied together into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one affects all. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. Did you ever stop to think that you can't leave for your job in the morning without being dependent upon most of the world? You get up in the morning and reach over for a sponge, and that's handed to you by a Pacific Islander. You reach for a bar of soap, and that's given to you from the hands of a Frenchman. You go to the kitchen to drink your coffee, and it's poured into your cup by a South American. Or maybe you're desirous of having cocoa for breakfast, and that's poured into your cup by a West African. You reach for your toast, given to you at the hands of an English-speaking farmer, not to mention the baker. And before you finish eating breakfast in the morning, you've depended upon more than half of the world. This is the way our universe is structured. This is its irreducible, interrelated quality. We can't have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality. This is a person removed from the Buddhist tradition by vast gulfs of time, place, culture, circumstance. And yet in the same way as the Buddha talks about the Dhamma, the teachings, as Sandhittiko, which is a beautiful Pali word meaning readily apparent. Not readily apparent to Buddhists with a card in their back pocket saying they're Buddhist, but readily apparent to anyone who would stop and consider. And one of the primary teachings of the Buddha, in fact, the one that after his awakening experience, the Buddha despaired at being able to teach people because of its subtlety, its complexity, and the way it directly swims against the stream of our kind of common, ordinary awareness, is this teaching of what he called paticca samuppada, which nicely translates as dependent co-arising. Everything is made of everything else. Even just breathing, we breathe in this whole world into our body, dependent upon each breath for life. And then we breathe our body out into the world around us. You are made of everything you have ever eaten in your life. Sun and moon and stars and seed and seasons and time and soil, etc. You are made of your mother and your father and their mother and father to the beginning of time. This beautiful man, this teacher, born and raised in our own country, was found to be far too radical to be allowed to live. And so, like many great teachers about time, he attempted to erase him. But as the Buddha says, 3 things cannot be hidden. 3 things shine for all: the sun, the moon, and the truth. So on this day of commemoration of the birth of this great man, who simply told the truth, the beautiful truth of our belonging to each other. I invite you to welcome him into your pantheon of teachers, of well-wishers, of beings who throughout time have prayed for you. May all beings be happy. That includes you. So I am a very small person, but the very least I can do is magnify the amazing things that very great people like him have said. And any shortcomings in my remarks are a product of my own misunderstanding. And anything that you find of value there is yours forever.